Well, good morning to anyone who may be listening. It's beginning to seem that there's very few people listening at all, if anybody. But that's just the way that it goes, I suppose. It could be that the things that I'm saying are dull, and I suppose that's a reasonable assumption. But it could be that the channel is so choked that nobody ever sees it. I've got no control over those things. The only way I could change it, I suppose, is to promote the channel, but then I would fall into all those errors of what I see as being errors of the YouTubers. It doesn't really matter. Even if just one person listens, that's fine, and doesn't agree. So it is. But I feel quite anxious this morning. And one of the reasons for it, I think, or, well, the background, there's a, there's a polarization occurring in the society that I see around me, and I think it might be more widespread in Britain. I can only comment on my immediate surroundings because the newspapers can't really be trusted. But a measure of polarization is occurring between the different racial communities, and in particular between the white population and the Ishmaelite, which is one of the most critical relationships, as the Bible foretells. It's not surprising. Now, I have very good relations with my Ishmaelite brothers and sisters on the whole, and I'll gladly chat to anybody who will give me the time of day. And I certainly always greet anybody that I meet on the street, irrespective of their race or social status. I think that's a friendly and necessary thing to do. But there are some people who will not even look at me. I've noticed that. Not only will not greet me, but their eyes just slide off, as though I'm part of the problem. I don't know, and an interesting part of the landscape. And I am, I suppose, but I look a little bit out of the ordinary, perhaps. Not massively, but a little bit. Maybe that's why people don't like to look upon something that they're unfamiliar with. But there is a sense of, I think, among the Ishmaelite, there's a growing sense that they are somewhat marooned, and that the political tide might be turning against them, while at the same time there's a harder core element that believes that it's turning towards them, and ultimately they will confirm their control over the theological aspect and the civic aspects of this country. I was reminded of that yesterday because a gentleman that was walking towards me made a comment to me, and I need to give the background. There was 3 guys riding motorcycles, 3 white guys, and they came down the road in style. one of the bikes was, I should think, quite a big capacity engine, and it sounded good to me. It wasn't like disturbingly loud, but I mean, if you're riding a motorbike, you need a bit of exhaust on it. You know, I like motorbikes. It was nice, and I watched them go by. I don't think they were speeding particularly. They might have been going a bit over the limit, but you know, it wasn't a major problem. And they came down the road in style and round the corner, and off they went. And this fellow, an Ishmaelite, approaching, he was around about 45 years of age. He was shaking his head and tut-tutting, and he just said to me, "It's not good." And I didn't know what he was talking about, so I said, "What's not good?" And he said, "These motorbikes, it's not good." And went on. And I couldn't think of how to respond. I wasn't sure what he was going to say to me. I thought it was pretty good, actually. I like to see, you know, people enjoying themselves on the road safely, which is what they were doing. And I'd just walked down from the main road, because this was a side road. And the main road, the traffic along there regularly, and it had been just at that moment, a couple of very high-powered sports cars racing down, very loud, driven both by Ishmaelitish men. And other high-powered cars, perhaps there'd been a wedding or something, and people were having to wait a long time to cross the road, and you know, they have souped up cars and all the rest of it. I mean, they're all right generally, but there are some very serious traffic accidents along that road, and some insanely fast driving. And you know, the Ishmaelite is disproportionately responsible for that, greatly disproportionately, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. So that the context of the comment that I received, I thought, well, that's odd, isn't it? You know, whether there was a racial component to his comment or not, I don't know. What's wrong with a motorbike going down the road? A little bit faster, yes, maybe. Maybe he was doing 40 in a 30 limit. But if you've got a motorbike, you have to do that, really, as long as there's not a speed camera. It's not, oh, you have to, but you can, kind of thing. You can accept it, right? You're riding a bike, you're not on an e-scooter, and those things go like the blazes. Those little electrical concepts on the pavements also, you know. So there's that racial divide, I think, is being intensified, and it's being fueled by the media. And some people are following, you know, the media narrative, of course. So you'll find more. There's a little bit of patriotism among our people, and I don't know whether that word jingoism, I'll have to look it up, see what it means exactly. And, you know, I suppose you could say it's divisive, potentially, in the way that, you know, flying a Union flag outside of my house, a Union Jack, might elicit the display of different flags outside of different houses. You know, there is a division between our people, there's no question of it. And we live cheek by jowl and, generally speaking, peaceably, and I'm very much in favour of that. I think that's the way we need to proceed, and let God sort out the deeper issues that we can't address by simply following the Bible and loving our neighbour, without having to break down our neighbour into categories that are lovable or unlovable. I mean, your neighbour is your neighbour. It just means another person, the other. There's no qualification of that other. It includes the roadmen that are around with their um, big black jackets and hoods, and they're thieving in the shops. They're still your neighbour. It includes everybody. And the roadmen, they're very often, well, they tend to be from the white or Caribbean community, I think, from what I can see. They're a bit of a nuisance, I'm not fond of them. But, I am instructed to love them by the word of God. And so it is. And the other thing that's making the city less pleasant, I think, at the moment is this accumulation of rubbish on the streets. The city council has still not brought in, a thorough cleaning program. And people have been taking things into their own hands, and in some areas it's been done very, very well, including Ishmaelite areas, although, you have to search to find one. But the white areas also are filthy, and we have the litter pickers and all the rest of it, but it's come to the level where a litter picker can't really deal with it because people will throw out unwanted furniture and mattresses. They're using, as it were, the general disorder and untidiness of the streets to get rid of stuff that they don't want. And so the piles of rubbish are just, unless you arrive with serious lorries and compactors, there's nothing you can do with it. It's too much. You can't carry it to the nearest public litter bin that are sometimes emptied. So the streets are filthy with, half-eaten food scattered all over the place and plastic. It's quite, it becomes oppressive. And this has been going on, really, it started at the beginning of the year, and there's no end in sight. So this is presumably part of a plan to sow discord and discontent and mayhem among the people, to live in these filthy surroundings, and then accusations fly. But the real matter is the city council, which has assumed, which takes money to sort these problems out and continues to take it. But the city council that last year paid nearly £500,000 to the resigning chief executive officer in a sort of a payout deal. £500,000, and the current salary of the CEO of the city council, I believe, is £300,000 every year. And the councillors and the pay scale will go down through the ranks, of course. But even when you get to the waste collectors, they don't get paid an absolute pittance by any means. And there were some people out on Sunday, and I said to the fellow, he was a council waste collector. What he was doing I didn't know, but I said, "Oh, it's nice to see you." And he turned round smiling and he said, "Oh yeah," he said, "it's double pay on Sundays." So whether he thought that would commend him in my sight, it didn't really. If you're only going to come and deign to pick up litter because it's double pay on Sunday. But their hands are a little bit tied by the union. The union has been blockading the compactor trucks, the union representatives, and accusations of strike breakers or scabs or whatever they call them. And the union is paying the striking workers a decent amount. I think slightly less than their salary, but not, not massively so. And they apparently have unlimited funds because with a Labour government in power, the unions, has to be remembered that the trade unions have always been financed by the Labour government. So they've got a direct line to as much capital as they need to carry on with their business. There's no problem with all that stuff. So it's an organised decline, organised destruction, and in Birmingham it's being done also through the waste disposal, the lack of it. They're pulling out all the stops. It's all organised, isn't it? Now that we understand, I think it's more or less official. What I've always known or suspected, that this immigration is being organised. It's not immigration, it's a deliberate recruitment. And these men are being brought in and paid for a purpose. And the purpose for the time being seems to be the destruction of our civil society. And the creation of what do they call it? When there's two sides, one against the other. My brain's not working this morning particularly. But the black and white, I suppose you could call it, like the Freemasonic idea. You need two sides, and then you can set them one against the other, and that's the way that it works, isn't it? That's the way that they achieve their goal. And people need to see it for what it is. But to do that, you need to think a little bit more deeply, I think. And I don't know. There's a philosophical question at the basis of all this stuff. And once you see it, you see it. I don't know whether it helps us to know what we can do about it all, but certainly to understand the problem is, the beginning. But it is, I find it has left me feeling a little bit anxious to be, I think this situation has contributed to a feeling of unrest and anxiety. So I've resolved to spend some time in the Word of God this morning. And I opened John, the Gospel of John, and I thought, well, I'll read it in Italian, because sometimes I find changing language just quickens my mind to details that I might miss. And in fact, as I read the first 3 verses of John in the Italian Bible, I realized that my previous contribution on my channel, which I'd called Reverence and something or other, the Word, Reverence for the Word, did I call it? Authority. It's actually encapsulated in the first 3 verses of John, which places the Word, which emphasizes the fact that the Word is the primal thing. The Word is the primal, is the force that creates everything, from which everything has been created. It's been created by Jesus Christ, by the Word. And that's evident from the very first verse of, or the second verse perhaps, of Genesis. Would it be the second verse? I've got various Bibles in front of me here. In the beginning, no. Why don't I know Genesis off by heart? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." So that's the word, isn't it? So it is, in fact, verse 3 that we see the connection between the word and creation. It's the primal thing. That's why it's so important, you see, and that's why it's been removed from all the churches, or it's corrupted in those few faithful churches that prefer to read their commentaries. So that was a revelation to me, and I thought I'd share it this morning. And meanwhile, I don't know, I'll try and have a relaxing day and read the Bible and go for a walk. What else can a man do? God bless everybody this morning.